Dan RadioStyle, hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. How do I know what I imagine is real? Now, Goddard talks about, of course, that once you do the imaginal process, right? Once it's inside your head, once it's imagined, it is real. And really the whole concept of asking, we've talked about it, I've done a bunch of shows, but the idea of continuing to ask once you have already that which you seek, well, there's kind of silly, right? It almost seems pointless. Now, living in the end, thinking about it, spending time with it, totally. Continuing to ask for it like I don't have it yet, and that's how I'm going to get it. It's by asking. No, it's by living with it and still massaging and spending time with that energy, and then that kind of helps it become more physical. It's how I've always seen it anyway, so I'm trying my best to explain it from that standpoint. But a very good viewer, in fact, and someone that has been there such a long time. I want to almost say she's like a friend, right? But MsBrock, she's commented a number of times, and she sent me a communication email, and it was a book that she was sharing with me. So online, one of those older ones, I guess sometimes where the copyright runs out, so you just get like a PDF or whatever. And the name of it's called The Enlightenment, and it's by D Alan Holmes. And I haven't gotten too terribly far into it, but it's funny, as I was kind of just glancing through it, and right off the bat, I came up with, or I saw a quote in there that reminded me of something very profound when I was kind of studying and learning and I guess first kind of getting into how we shape our worlds and how we know whether something's real or not real, how I know if I created it or it was created already and I happen to pick up on it, like intuition. Like, it was during the times when I was really playing with those components of life and trying to understand them better. It's just, again, I've kind of got a weird analytical mind. I like to look at some of these different experiences and, play with the energies and see what happens. And so it's fun for me. It's good times, right? So the quote that came up was called, or is, I should say, "If it can be experienced, it exists. You cannot experience something which doesn't exist." There's twofold to this, and I want this to kind of be one of those things where people kind of realize, wow, okay, that's actually what Goddard's talking about, and that's actually what it means to own it. And that is actually kind of how you know it's real. Now, again, it's still etheric to a degree, but you're making it more physical. But when it's real in the etheric sense, it's real. It's just as real as the physical. It just needs to kind of become more dense and thusly then show itself here and become physical. So whether you're a specific person or whether you're trying to manifest a job or money or whatever, I mean, any of the things that you're trying to manifest, this falls into that kind of place. So if it can be experienced, it exists. Now, what that means, and that comes from the whole idea of trying to imagining something to the reality of where you're feeling it, where you're experiencing it. When you can feel the happiness, when you can feel it and you get tears in your eyes because you can experience the love to such an extent, that is real love. That is real, true situation that you're experiencing because now you're dancing with them maybe and you can see them face to face and it's just real. Like those dreams we have frequently. When you've experienced it, it is real. It is real. If it is something that you can't experience, it seems distant, seems far away, well, it's something that maybe needs a little more creating, a little more asking, a little more visualizing towards, because that one maybe isn't so much real. So if I'm not able to see their face, right? I keep imagining the love of my life, but the face part hasn't filled in. That's okay, because maybe the face hasn't been decided yet, and maybe it will as we progress through these energies, as we progress through the asking. We've talked about maybe sometimes there's evolutional changes within ourselves that needed to happen. Maybe I'm inherently grumpy, or maybe I'm very negative, or maybe I always like to go off on political tangents, and the person that's waiting to be with me is maybe not overly political, maybe doesn't care that I am, but doesn't always want to talk about it, right? Or maybe it kind of puts her off, and just jumping right out and constantly brandishing my political talk is maybe going to push her away, just as an example, only because it is something that is so heavily talked about out here in the United States and England and Europe and like Brexit. There's a whole lot of stuff going on right now in the world where people are not real happy with how things are kind of playing out. It's kind of interesting. So anyway, As I've talked about before, by the way, that's part of the changes of the world that I think are happening. That's where it's starting to happen in other places too, not just here in the land of the crazy. And especially me living in California, which is the central headquarters of crazy in the land of crazy, on the world of crazy. So it's fantastic. So experiencing it, that reality, there's a couple-fold aspect to it. If you are experiencing it, it's real. You got this. You got this. Just keep living from the end because you got this. It's happening. It's occurring. There's no real need to question that. You might still, but there's no need to, right? Because it's real. It's clear. It's an experience. It is as much a reality as physical reality is. It's just that's where things start. All things start as an idea. All things start as words, right? And then they become more. That's just how things manifest. That's how things come to fruition. Anything that's never been done before starts as a thought, right? So all things have to start as a thought and then solidify. That's just how it works. So if it can be experienced, it exists, which means you cannot experience something which doesn't exist. If it doesn't exist anywhere on any plane in any dimension, then you can't experience it. Now, does that mean you can't create new things? No, does not mean that. In fact, if it hasn't been created yet, it can be. By you imagining it, let's try saying it with words that are proper. By you imagining it, you actually do the creating. So, no despair if you're not necessarily able to experience it yet. That's okay. That just means you're doing a little more of the creation and it isn't necessarily already here. It's not already yours. So it's one of the very helpful discerning things from where you're at in your manifestation, right? A lot of people are like, how long is it going to take? We can't really answer that, but depending on kind of how you answer that question, are you seeing it with absolute clarity? Well, then if that's the case, you're definitely a bit further along than necessarily someone who's not seeing it yet with clarity, but is doing the imaginal work and is creating that and maybe is finding on a daily basis that the imagery is becoming more and more clear. And that was the side of it that I remembered from my studies. I don't remember what book it was. I don't know if it was Neil Donald Walsh. I mean, I've got some of my favorite books below. For those of you, I don't know if you ever look at them, but they're links. They just kind of take you to the actual book on Amazon. You don't have to order it, but it is like the books that I've very special to me. And so it was one of those. Celestine Prophecies. Could have been Dan Millman, Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Like I just don't remember one of those books because that was just such a tumultuous time of my life and so many wonderful things happened. But it was that understanding of knowing when I see something with clarity that it's real versus it's cloudy. Like I said, when you can't see the face, right? Everything else, the long hair, right? And all these things, but you can't see the face. It's okay. The face is still defining itself. So it's not a problem. So one of the ways that you can easily tell that it's real is that level of experience, how it feels, how real it feels already within you. Are you able to experience it as is? If you are, it's real. You got this. You're golden. If it's not, that's fine. That's okay. It just gives you an idea where you're at. You're going to put some of that more energy towards it. It is that creative, that imagining energy that creates it. We were made in His image and likeness, which one of the other ways a lot of people suggest that oftentimes means is we are little mini versions of Him, of Source, of Creator. And that's what we are, as creators as well. That's why so many of us enjoy the arts and all those kinds of things, because it's that creative aspect. It's that bringing something new to this physicality, or bringing something new even to the ethos, to the thinking, to the collective thought that's out there. So a lot of us get a big kick out of playing our part in that whole game, and that is how change is brought in. It's brought in from kind of an upper level and then slowly kind of starts to sink down, right, into the zeitgeist, if you will, and then suddenly everybody's on board and you know, singing the song, singing the joys of whatever it is that you're selling, right? Whatever snake oil you're pitching, they're buying it. It's good stuff. How well I can see the image has made the difference for me. So that's kind of the other side. Some of you may be a little more visual, some of you not so much visual. The experience is the feelings. That's why we always keep talking about, you know, having that taste, touch, smell, all that stuff. If you can bring that in there, That's where the reality of it is. So I think one way to look at it is the creative aspect of it, yes. And then two, how receiving of this creation are you right now? And that's the thing, is you're constantly focused on this creation and being there and getting there. And like I've said, staying focused on the direction you're going. And that keeps that energy moving towards it. It's how sometimes if you change your mind and decide you don't want that anymore, you're not necessarily bound to it forever. Yeah, you've put energy towards it, but you can change directions. And if you continue to focus that way, then that's the direction your focus mostly goes. And you start to let go of the focus of this. And yeah, some coincidences will come and go, but they don't catch your attention as much. You don't focus on them as much, and you continue down the path that you've now chosen. Because making changes is definitely part of creation. Like, I don't necessarily always want to make the lines the same thickness, or I don't want to use the same shade of blue on this part of the sky as I do on that part of the sky. Hey, whatever it is, right? Poetic license too. What the heck? Anyway, hopefully this makes a difference. If you like what I'm doing, please click subscribe. I always appreciate that. Little picture of my ugly mug on the bottom right corner there. You just click on that. And then if you do the little thingies next to the bell, that'll make it ring, basically, whenever I put out a new video, which is always helpful. Send you an email or something like that, basically. And it does something within YouTube. It's always good times. And please comment, questions, queries, quandaries, and throw those down in the comments. It's a great community. A lot of people will chime in on stuff, and it's always awesome when you guys do that and try to help each other. You guys have all read the same books I've read. Shoot, you've probably read more of them. So, again, help each other. A lot of it's just practice, as I've said many a time. So hopefully this all makes a difference. Dan, RadioStyle, thank you, everybody, and we'll be talking to you soon. Thanks.